Let's bring in now Labor frontbencher Tim Ayres. He's the Assistant Minister for the Future Made in Australia. I know your focus today has been on the Coalition's nuclear commitments. I want to start, though, if I can, with the events in Sydney. It must be disturbing to you, like it is to so many Australians, to see another case of vandalism and another anti-Semitic attack in Sydney.
Well, those of us in Sydney and Melbourne, you know, they are both great multicultural cities where, you know, the Jewish Australians have played a really important role and are loved in those communities and are part of the fabric of modern Sydney and modern Melbourne. So it is really distressing to see this. It is why the Albanese government, from the beginning of this terrible conflict, from October 7 on, and you know that dreadful massacre on October 7 and all of the conflict that has ensued ever since, we have put at the centre of the national interest social cohesion. We're doing it for a reason, Kieran. It matters, and decline in social cohesion and bringing the conflict here, it is utterly unacceptable what's happened.
Jane Hume, I want to read you what she said. She said today, the Liberal frontbencher, it does seem that those that are committing these offences have been emboldened, if not enabled, by a government that has failed to take leadership that the Jewish community are looking for.
It's just a contemptible assertion. When you actually just look at it, this assertion written down, how on earth do you make the case that our approach in terms of voting patterns at the United Nations, where there's been some divergence of views between us and the Coalition, relates to violent conduct, anti-Semitic conduct here? So the first question is how that case could possibly be made. The more disturbing question is why.
Benjamin Netanyahu said the same thing.
Why would you?
The Israeli Prime Minister's said similar things.
Why would you, as an Australian political leader, you know, a frontbencher in the Liberal Party, Peter Dutton's made the same argument. Why would you make that argument? It's wrong. It can't be supported. It's been made for the basest of political reasons, this argument. It's been made to try and say we're tougher and stronger on these issues, and this is happening because of something else. I mean, that is just not.
Could the government have been tougher in rejecting anti-Semitism?
The government has been utterly unequivocal on this question.
And cracking down on people that show up to protest, though, with the hate symbols and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing, and I want to see, and I think every decent Australian wants to see, the book thrown at these people. Effective police work, charges, prosecutions. Throw the book at them. This is unacceptable. That's why the Prime Minister announced a task force. That's why police agencies have been engaged in all of this work. Anti-Semitism is a scourge, and it needs to be dealt with. Government's been completely consistent, but what we're not doing is playing politics with it. You know, like we are.
You're not thinking about the Green seats or the Western Sydney seats?
No.
Because that's what some of your critics are saying. You've been lukewarm on the anti-Semitism because of that.
Well, critics on either side of this argument want the government to pick a side and advocate for the side that they've chosen of the argument in Israel and Palestine in this conflict. We're saying the side we're picking here is Australia and Australia's interest and Australia's values. That's what's driven our approach. And it means that when people are making florid claims or lifting up the hyperbole or the argument on either side of this, we've just been consistent. What is the Australian interest? And core to the Australian interest is social cohesion and dialing down the rhetoric. And I wish that Adam Bandt and the Greens political party and Peter Dutton and the Liberal and National Party would agree with us on this question and tone the rhetoric down and focus on bringing Australians together rather than trying to drive them apart.
The Coalition is promising to have its nuclear costings out soon.
Yep.
Probably, well, they've said this week. When you're saying, obviously you've been out there today having a crack at them for not providing that detail, but to be fair to them, it's an ambitious plan and they are taking it to the people.
Yeah, it's an ambitious plan. a press release that's been out there for 6 months. Can you imagine if the Labor Party, with a complete absence of any costed policy on any question, announced what appears to be a $600 billion publicly funded nuclear reactor plan with no costings? And nothing happens for 6 months, except every fortnight there's a drop from the Dutton office or the Ted O'Brien office to say costings just around the corner. It's not clear to me what's going to come first, Christmas or costings.
They've said it'll be out before.
They keep saying, but just reflect on it for a second. In June, Peter Dutton announced the policy. Now, there's only two things that are possible. Number one, he had costings, but has kept them a secret. Or secondly, he announced a policy that he was deeply attached to without knowing how much it cost, and has now desperately been trying to work to make the figures add up. Yeah. Now, that is completely unacceptable. This is the slowest moving forgery in Australian political history. Costings that will arrive on the eve of Christmas. It'll be a blizzard of numbers. The only numbers that Australians need to remember is $1,200. That's what the additional cost will be to household bills every year. So at the end of every quarter, homeowners get their electricity bill.
Well, they've
$300 or
released
$400 more a quarter.
They've done costings, including on your plan, which they've said will cost multiples more than what you've promised.
Nobody believes
the same numbers they've done for the nuclear program.
Well, they say unreleased, shrouded in mystery, their costings, total bunkum. Right? These characters don't believe the CSIRO. They don't believe AEMO. They're in the basement clacking away on the computer, trying to make it all add up. You know, it's the Jared Rennick costing department. It's not serious. This guy wants to be the Prime Minister of Australia. He wants the most expensive form of energy in the system, built by the taxpayer, and then wants the taxpayer to pay twice with higher electricity charges. It's a joke.
Tim Ayres, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Always happy to come on.